Well, welcome everybody. Proud to be here in Washington at the National Association of Wholesale and Distribution, the NAW's annual Important Executive Summit. And I'm really delighted to be here with Mark Dancer, who is a fellow at the Institute of Distribution Excellence from the NAW, and Jon Kaplan from Alibaba. So welcome both of you. This is an ongoing part of our series, which is looking at the 12th edition of the Facing the Forces of Change, Innovate to Dominate. And we're very proud as pros to sponsor this NAW initiative. Before that, Jon, maybe you could just introduce yourself and tell the folks a little bit more about Alibaba.
Sure. So it's great to be here, and thank you for welcoming me. I'm Jon Kaplan from Alibaba.com. Alibaba.com is the original business of Alibaba Group. So Alibaba Group has multiple business lines, but the Alibaba.com business is the team that I'm on. And what we are is a global platform to help businesses do business with one another. Really the world's largest B2B marketplace. But unlike, I think, how people generally think of marketplaces, our business is aligned to the interests of sellers, distributors, manufacturers globally. So we provide the ability for someone who wants to sell their goods to customers to own the customer relationship, a significant part of our platform, to pay a membership fee, so we don't charge a commission on people's sales, and we have tools and services that make it easy for two businesses to collaborate with one another, whether you're in Detroit and your customers in Chicago, or you're in Detroit and your customers are in Berlin or Dubai or any place around the world.
Now, one of the things that I found fascinating is you've got about 10 million buyers globally, and there's a very large percentage based here in the US, right? So maybe you could dig into some of the data there.
Yeah, so what's interesting about Alibaba.com is every day there are, as you said, millions of people on the platform, and there are hundreds of thousands of inquiries made every day. And what that means is business buyers, people who are procuring either raw materials for their manufacturer, they're looking for some goods for resale or goods that they use for their business's operations, come to Alibaba.com to discover the source of that supply. And sometimes they want supply that's very close, right? That can be delivered tomorrow or within 3 days. Sometimes their priority is to find supply that comes with a suite of services. It's people who can provide after-sale support. Sometimes they're looking for, I don't need it quickly, I just need the lowest price. And so by having a global supply base, what we've been able to do is really help the world's business buyers do well. And your question about the US is our largest market for buyers on the platform. Okay. And it is 7 times larger than the next largest market.
Right. And another fascinating fact that you have talked about before is that the B2B market is 6x. It's nearest other kind of B2C market.
Yeah, it is a remarkable statistic. The global B2B e-commerce market is $23.9 trillion. That is 6 times larger than the B2C market. Right. And so when you think about what that means for a business owner who is trying to grow, the best market to be in is businesses doing businesses with one another, just because of the amount of demand that's there.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we found, it's come through with the research that Mark and the NAW have done, it's come through with a lot of the research that we've done with pros, is you are part of that opportunity and that disruption. I use both of those words intentionally. And one of the biggest issues that we find and benefits that we find that the new digital buyer is demanding is that strong, frictionless, omnichannel buying experience. They want that customer experience. And it's really interesting, again, something that you mentioned during your presentation earlier today here at the summit, was the philosophy that Alibaba has. So you've got customer first, employee second, investors third. And I think the fact that you're part of that disruptor, you're also, I would say, facilitator. Maybe you just talk more about how important that customer experience is in this new digital age.
And I think the first thing is we are an ally to manufacturers and distributors here in the United States
Right.
as they try to transform their business for the next 20 years. And I think if you sort of dig into Innovate in this book and think about what the key message is, it's about understanding your business, understanding your market, and ultimately understanding your customers. Because if you listen to the needs of your customer, then you can transform yourself to provide value. So Alibaba.com is one way a distributor in the US can grow their business, get more customers. Because the way our system works, you own the customer relationship. We have great CRM tools. You can use our tools to deepen your relationship. And since it's your customer, you can pick up the phone and call them or send your sales guys to go see them. We encourage that in the Alibaba.com platform. We really are trying to help. We built a system and a platform to help distributors grow and grow profitably.
And I think many of our audience, which are manufacturers and distributors for this series, probably don't realise the assets that they have and the data that they have in the business. And you talked a lot about enabling them to gain those insights, to then be able to personalise, to tailor that product, offer, service, whatever it will be, and then engage.
Mark earlier today asked a really important question, I thought, which I thought was very insightful, because the question was, what are the strengths and assets of a manufacturer, and how should they be thinking about them? And I think if you're a manufacturer or distributor, your number one asset is your customer relationship. You should never give that up. And it's your salespeople, critical relationship, your IP. And so what we found is that our tools and the robustness of the data that we share with the manufacturers and distributors on our platform actually help them more effectively serve their customers. For example, which of your customers are engaging in which of your products online and how? Well, that insight can really transform how a sales organization thinks about what products they promote and how they do. On the Alibaba.com platform, all of the pricing is negotiated, and so you can have a different relationship with each of your customers. So if you're a manufacturer or distributor, someone wants to buy 100 forklifts, you might charge them X. Someone wants to buy 1,000 forklifts or 10,000 forklifts, you might charge them Y. And the platform enables you to do that.
Exactly. And I think, and Mark, we've talked a lot about in the webcast and in the research and in the book about this innovation, about how data is a fundamental foundation, but it's not just the data, it's the insights that the data gives you to enable you to grow. And I love your example, John, that you mentioned of linking a spa to an avocado. Now, a lot of companies don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
So, what does that mean in the sense of, a manufacturer? They're looking for new opportunities. They don't even know the sort of disruption where competition comes from, but they may not also know where the opportunity comes from. So maybe you could give the
So it's a funny example. We opened the Alibaba.com platform for U.S. manufacturers and distributors on July 23rd of 2019. So it's in recent time, folks are joining us. One of the early adopters joined the platform, and they are in the ag and food space, and have been selling to supermarkets for 100 years. Right? Like that was their business. And they got an inquiry from a spa that wanted to buy 12 container loads of avocados, and it was a legitimate customer. They engaged with them, they completed the transaction, and the CEO of the business, the seller on our platform, I was chatting with him, and he said, I never knew that this was a market for us to penetrate. I never would have found it had I not gone on Alibaba.com. And now this is an area for us to develop. Do I think that they're going to pivot their whole company and sell avocados to spas? I doubt it. But I do think the insight is really important, which is if you can get lots of leads and have the patience to engage them, right? If you get leads and do nothing, shame on you, frankly. But if you engage them, you might sell, 12 container loads of avocados to a spa in Arizona.
And the other opportunity that you just didn't think about.
Correct.
And if you did have that insight.
Yeah, I think that's part of what Mark's book does, I think, so well, which is being honest with yourself about what your business is and going through the steps required to bring innovation into your organization. I think that is to think of innovation as a process you go through. It doesn't happen overnight. It's actually steps you take and a way of thinking that helps you transform your business.
Right.
One of the very things, I think it's listening to you talk and listening to your answers and the discussion we had back and forth, that's very interesting to me is that the conversation to me sounds a lot like conversations that existed between good relationships between distributors and manufacturers. You know, there the idea was they both brought something together to the table, but they were different business models that collaborated, and they collaborated because the customer, the end customer, would benefit from that collaboration. And a lot of your discussion seems like that. It's going to be a collaboration, right? So each party brings things to the table that are different. Most obvious thing is, of course, the platform that you have, the ability to reach customers, to serve them directly. Some of the fundamental questions that distributors are asking, though, about doing business in the new age and innovating, one of the things that comes up a lot is, and I'm wondering if you have insights for distributors on this, if more and more business goes virtual, how do we think about building the relationship of trust and loyalty, which are different but very related things, with customers? And I wonder if you have some insights for that.
Yeah, so there's a few thoughts that they popped into my mind along the way. I mean, one is, at Alibaba, one of the core values of Alibaba is trust makes everything simple. And I believe that in my soul, that when goal-aligned, trusting partners work together to serve customers, great things happen, for sure. I do think there's an interesting dynamic where if you're providing value for a customer, the virtual world doesn't replace the analog world. It complements the analog world. And I think that's going online doesn't replace your offline engagement. And I was chatting with a fellow who sells actually forklifts, and he loses $1 million a year selling his forklifts, but he makes it way up in margin on services and aftermarket and parts. And so and I think he's recognized, a great entrepreneur, and I was chatting with him at dinner last night. He said, the insight was, if I thought of myself only as a warehouse with goods to get delivered to customers, I would have been out of business. When I recognized that I have the goods and an expertise in how people use their goods, I could provide a suite of services so that they could make sure that their forklifts run well and they do all the things they need to do. And then when someone needs parts for those forklifts, I'm able to provide those services. And you know, the auto dealers in the United States are much the example, right? I think most auto dealerships in the US, you know, maybe break even on the cars and make money on the aftermarket and the service. And I think the distribution landscape here in the US, if it embraces a digital helps me get more demand and extend my reach, even if just here in the US, potentially globally. And then I bring my relationships and capability to that demand, I can grow my business. You know, we at Alibaba.com, we couldn't service a forklift. There's no one on our team that knows how to service a forklift. We have no intention of building the capability to service forklifts. But that fellow and his 200 employees can do a heck of a job doing that. And so him driving distribution on our platform and engaging those customers in the virtual, not the virtual world, the real world, the physical world, is really good for him.
How do distributors that are interested in selling more and more in the virtual space and providing value-added, maybe human-delivered local services, how does that get executed through Alibaba?
So the most important decision we've made as it relates to that is any customer you engage on our platform, you own the relationship. So you can cross-market your services directly to your customer base. You have their names, their email address. Our tool is fantastic for messaging and engaging them. So what we've seen some of the folks do that sell on our platform, they actually bring their physical world customer book, put it on to use Alibaba.com just for the CRM capability,
right?
Because it actually works so well, and they can then use it to track all the behavior that folks have.
Is the customer interface with Alibaba, who's buying a distributor's products through your platform, is that a buy box customer experience? Is it something else?
Yeah.
Is it customizable?
Yeah, thank you for asking. It's a good question. 90+% of the goods sold on the Alibaba.com platform are customizable, and customized can be negotiated around order quantity, volume, ship speed, or it can be, I want a blue blazer made of this fabric manufactured to me just this spec. So there's the vast majority of our platform is really a connection and engagement system between demand and supply. And so I think sometimes there's a misperception of Alibaba.com because people may think, oh, I see pictures of products and descriptions. I should think about it the way when I go to jcrew.com to buy a tie,
Yes.
and I see the tie and I think, okay, I don't email jcrew to negotiate the price or the delivery or the fabric. I either decide to order it or not order it. Alibaba.com is not that. It's actually a relationship builder that distributors and manufacturers can use to grow their business.
And that's a key point because it's part of that whole experience and it's not an and or. And you conducted some research recently to about 5,000 buyers in the SME space, right?
Yep.
And that was one thing that came out with how those buyers wanted to engage, and it was a multiple set of channels. And number one was email, if I remember rightly, but there was still inside-outside sales, there was digital, there was EDI systems. So there was still a lot of those.
Yeah,
it wasn't an either or.
I think this is part of the book that sort of comes when you read the book comes through, which is we did this research with 5,000 U.S. Business owners, people CEOs who buy or sell goods, right? They are 60+% of them are confident about the U.S. economy. That's a great thing. They are increasingly digitizing, although they're new to digital, and they want to go global. They either want to source goods globally or they want to sell their goods globally. But specifically, as it relates to how the buyer and the seller are engaging, there is not a one size fits all. Yes. You need to be great at email and reply to the email and not get caught in spam filters. And you need to go to the right trade shows and have the right booth. And you need to have a strategy on a platform like Alibaba.com, which enables you to get more leads, to discover new ways to engage with customers, to be part of your transformation journey.
And I think what's key to that is the consistency throughout those multiple touch points.
Right.
Because it's not a linear. In fact, we conduct research similar to you on an annual basis, and our last research was in the fall of last year to about 1,000 buyers of industrial distribution products, and it almost mirrored a lot of the information that you also came up with. But they all said that they increasingly want to include and expand buying digitally, as well as being able to negotiate, as well as being able to discuss. They need consistency. They need an optimized price, which again is consistent, and it's based on willingness to pay. It's not just based on a cost plus, which is not a good model, and it's also based dynamically, not statically. So taking into account all of those demands that the buyer has, Alibaba is a strong part of that process, and they're prepared to pay more if you're offering that tailored engagement throughout the multiple touch points that they have. They've told us they're prepared to pay more because they want that personalization.
Yeah, I think I'm old fashioned perhaps, but I do think if you can sell more and have good healthy margin, your business is going to grow. Right. Keep an eye on your costs, and your point about consistency is really important. Every time you touch a customer, are you helping that customer grow their business, right? Rather than looking in on yourself, if you're thinking about their needs and your customer's needs, and in every one of those touch points, thinking, what service do I need to offer? Is there a service that my customer's customer wants, that if I provide it, that it'll end up creating the loyalty that I'm trying to create? I think that's the right way to go.
Distributors want to create more and more services for their customers built around data. They also know that the value chain, the supply chain that they operate within is going to run on data. So there's a big question about how they can leverage data, analytics, artificial intelligence to better serve their customers and to run their business more efficiently and more effectively. Does working with Alibaba, do you offer tools or expertise around data and analytics?
Yeah. So anybody who uses Alibaba.com to sell gets access to a really robust amount of data about their store, their products, their customers. And what's useful about that is I think it's a good starter package of looking at data as it relates for a distributor selling, frankly, because it's enterprise quality, but simply communicated, and you can log in and look at it. And I think that's of real value. The second is if you're a buyer on Alibaba.com and you're looking to find someone, we do a really good job of trying to match you to our search algorithm. You think of us like a search engine. The search algorithm is pretty effective. So if what you're looking for is well described, we do a good job of matching you to the person who has that. And so using data to match buyers and sellers is sort of core to the Alibaba.com platform.
That's a really interesting point. So if I'm a distributor and I value Alibaba because it gives me reach and a world-class e-commerce platform that I can play on, and I want to attract business, but if that's not my core value proposition, is that I'm in the virtual space, I offer services, I have a collection of products, I'm in your community, I have expertise in your industry, they need to communicate that on Alibaba so that those customers find me through your search engine.
Correct. One of the most valuable pages in the Alibaba.com experience for a seller, a distributor, for example, is what we see is customers look at the product capability. It's really description of capability. And then you know where they click? The overview of the business. And they look at the photos and the description and how long they've been in business, what awards they've won, what services they offer. And that is an indication, I think, that globally buyers want a relationship with the seller. They don't want a commoditized experience. They actually want the value that a manufacturer or distributor can offer. What I would encourage folks who join our platform is communicate it. Right? I tell them all the time, the more you share about your capability, the better you will do. And just last thought on that, digital is not a get-rich-quick scheme for a distributor, right? It isn't load my products up and go sit on the boat in Fort Lauderdale and do nothing, right? It is a virtual trade show with lots more data and tools that enable, if you're responsive to your customers, potential customers, and provide good service, your business will grow.
2 follow-up questions on that. If a distributor is on Alibaba and they know who they want to attract, right? And they're putting the content on Alibaba to do that. 2 questions. One, is that like search engine optimization with the same sort of rules you would do to end up at the top of a Google search page?
It is precisely like that.
And then the second question is, they know which customers find their way to them. Do they know who doesn't? Do they know how to get better over time at attracting the customers they want?
Yes. So what we've tried to make simple, which is some of this is complex, and we try to make it as simple as possible. Is try to indicate where the opportunities are. So there's a feature in our platform where you can see what requests, what RFQs are coming in every day. So if you're a tie distributor and you want to see who around the world is looking for tie inventory, you can go on the platform right now, that's transparent, you can see 10,000 people in the last 24 hours have these requests, and you can choose which you respond to, which you don't want to respond to. And what we found about that is the person who's looking at that information, that opportunity, begins to learn the rhythm of the request, just like a good salesperson does when they're driving their territory. They know what time, what customers to go see at what time, how to answer them. The rhythm of the RFQs that come in digitally has the same experience. And so you can see, customers who want 2 containers of avocados, I'm going to respond to those. Somebody who only wants a pallet of avocados, that's not for me because that's not my business model.
Another challenge for distributors as they're becoming modern businesses and innovate, and it goes to the topic we're talking about, which is how they learn, either from a data perspective or from other businesses. One of the challenges distributors have within their industry associations is that they're all experts on distribution, but they also compete against each other. But they value learning from companies that know and have done what they aspire to do. Right? So it's not data analysis, it's can I talk to a company who can learn something from? Does that sort of learning opportunity happen either informally or formally?
So there's a few answers to that question. The first is we host events we call build-up events around the United States, really that are how to source, how to sell on our platform, and we invite partners and associations to come, technology companies come to really just have a conversation around innovation, and those have been, I think, very useful. Another thing that we've done, and this is again my personal perspective on this, the distribution market size is $6 trillion.
Yes, U.S.
U.S. So I actually would be less concerned about holding close my insights. I'd be focused about how much of the market am I penetrating.
Yes.
In a $6 trillion market, if you're a $100 million distributor, you've got a lot of opportunity for growth. So learning about ways to think about how to penetrate the market, either from folks that you think are your competitors, you know what? It's a $6 trillion market. There's enough opportunity and room for lots of people to be successful.
And it's a more informed market than ever before. I mean, your 10 million buyers, when they engage with the distributors or one of your sellers, they're more informed than they've ever been.
So a way to think about it is the global e-com in B2B is $23.9 trillion. Alibaba.com is the largest B2B e-commerce marketplace. It's pretty substantial, and we're very humble about our penetration of that market. We have a long way to go to help all the world's businesses do business with one another. Really, the long-term dream is, can we create an operating system that makes the entrepreneurs who run distribution companies and manufacturing businesses around the globe have the tools and technology that enables them to serve their customers.
I'm also very interested in your Alibaba can help distributors sell here in the United States in the markets they already serve, and as the customers of distributors have more virtual options, one of the things that they are trying to communicate with customers is, what is the value of me as a local business? So if a distributor were to bring you on, here's how I would phrase that question to you, and they would be part of the way they go to the market, and then they were standing in front of their customers and saying, we're a local business, and you can buy from us on our phone, our salesman will call on you, or you can buy from us through Alibaba. How would you recommend the distributor communicate the value for an existing customer to buy through the distributor on Alibaba?
Yeah, so I don't think of it as an either or. I think of it as sort of a relay race. I'm going to see you on Saturday at Little League, so I'm going to build a relationship with you. On Monday, you're going to be searching my catalog digitally, and you're going to message me in the Alibaba.com with a question. I'm going to reply. You're going to place an order on Tuesday. I'm going to call, my sales guy's going to come visit you on Thursday when the goods arrive, and I'll see you on Saturday again at Little League. So I don't think of it as your one channel competes with the other channel. I actually think of it as a system for helping your customers achieve what they want. And I think you referenced earlier the research. Buyers want email, and they want relationships with the salesperson, and they want services, and they want to be able to look on their phone at 11 p.m. when you're worried because the floor manager calls and says, oh no, we're out of something, but you call your distributor and you can't get them, and you feel weird about calling your sales rep at 11 p.m. You can actually go in your Alibaba.com app as a buyer and see what's available from your distributors you do business with. It is true, you could also see distributors around the globe, right? And just like they could go on Google and search to find other folks, right? If you're a distributor or manufacturer and you're opting out of what is a critical step in the relationship chain, you're making it your job harder.
And you both talked all about loyalty, right? And increasing lack of loyalty, but loyalty comes from that differentiation of a good service, good experience, the right price, and the convenience. That's something that you talked a lot about, Jon. So I think that does roll into that's important with that consistency that you both talk about, that enables the buyer to engage across those multiple channels consistently, while making sure you differentiate yourselves, because they're not only informed buyers, but they have hundreds more choices than they've ever had before. So how do you build and maintain that loyalty? That's key.
Well, if you think about it, the next 10 years are going to be hard, not easy. So like anybody who thinks, oh, this is a cake, they're wrong, right? The next 10 years are going to be harder than the last 10 years have been or manufacturer or distributor around the world. The opportunity is greater. And if an entrepreneur sort of thinks about that and says, I'm going to take a customer first approach. I'm going to go meet my customers and ask them, how can I help you more? What are the things you need? What are, like, you and I both described doing research as a critical part of how we're understanding the market. The best research is getting in the car and going to see your top customers and asking them, watching how they work, looking at the inefficiencies in their warehouse, in their supply chain, in their procurement process. If you sort of think and ask all of your customers the same 25 questions, and then go back and have an honest conversation with someone you trust about what you heard, I think that's when you realize, oh, things are changing, but there's a lot of opportunity here.
I think that's a really good point. I think that if you think about loyalty and the measures for it as things like repeat purchases, or perhaps paying a higher price because you value the services that I do, those things are valid. They've been around forever, but they're lagging indicators, right? In the modern age, you need to think about what are the things you can do and measure on the beginning side that build that loyalty.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking as you were talking that in a $6 trillion market, if price was the only factor, people would be switching a lot more where they buy.
I want to go back to a question you answered a few minutes ago, and you explained, which I absolutely agree with, that distributors need to have multiple ways to let customers buy from them the way they want to buy from them at that exact moment. And that can be calling somebody, it could be somebody that can see me, it could be a virtual purchase. And just surround the customer and give them all those options. If a distributor is thinking about bringing Alibaba into their mix, sometimes they call it Omnichannel for serving customers, does that mean that a distributor would be less likely to need their own website for e-transactions, or are they integrated some way? They have, in an app or on their website with your website. Do you become more of the digital?
So this is a great question and an important one. Every business should have a website, right? And
an e-commerce site.
Every business should have a website. Whether it should be e-commerce enabled is an open question. We can talk about that.
Yes.
What we've seen, and this is in the last 6 months, business sets up their Alibaba.com storefront, and they have their own e-commerce website. They get 500 leads on the Alibaba.com website. 60% of them are not relevant for whatever they want, pallets instead of containers, what have you. And then they convert out of the 40%. And I was talking to the entrepreneur who runs the business, Florida-based food exporting company, and what he said he had instructed his team to do was stop sending his Facebook and Google advertising to his own website, because Alibaba.com, we've spent 20 years perfecting the conversion funnel. So if you think about digital, there's two things you need to think about in online selling. Where am I getting my customers from, and what does it cost to get them? And once I drive them to my website, how good am I at converting them? There's no platform on the planet as good at converting, turning interest into dollars than Alibaba.com for B2B. So I certainly think every U.S. Entrepreneur needs to have a great website that describes their unique value prop. It can even be commerce enabled, but over time, I suspect folks will want to send the traffic to the place that converts the best. And remember, on Alibaba.com, when someone buys from you, you own the customer. They're not my customer. They're not Alibaba.com's customer. They're, distributor X, Y, or Z's customer. And the CRM is built into the platform. So that capability means if you're spending $10 or $1,000 or $100,000 on Google and Facebook, driving traffic to your website, and you're saying to your marketing guy, we spent $100,000 over the last quarter, we didn't get any orders. And maybe we're buying traffic ineffectively, or maybe the place you're sending them is lousy and doesn't convert well. And so
can distributors enable repeat purchases, e-procurement? There's a certain number of circumstances where the customers will want to key in, do a search, and key in an order. But sometimes those orders are more automated, particularly if they're buying the same thing over time from the same distributor.
Yeah, so Alibaba.com, our foundational history was as a discovery engine to help drive new demand, to to manufacturers and distributors. So we're more purpose-built as a more of a marketing solution than a retention solution. Although lots of people do use the platform to provision repeat orders, it wasn't designed and built today for that capability. It is it's at the top of, in terms of, the expression, eat your own dog food as an entrepreneur. So when I eat my own dog food, I go talk to our customers and ask them what they want. One of the requests is simplifying the repeat purchase flow for their customers, and we're working hard on that.
But I love how you call it's a demand generation mechanism for a distributor or a manufacturer. So you're going to be part or start of that relationship.
Yeah, what feeds your family and sends your kids to college is more orders at good margin and keeping your costs contained.
Well, it's a critical need for distribution too. I think in a research format over the years, many times over 20 years, I've asked distributors what percentage of their business comes from new accounts or within your existing accounts, sales you haven't had before. It's always small. Traditionally, it's 3 to 5%, if that, of the business. And if we're going to compete more organically, if we're going to compete more on the value we offer, we're differentiated from other players, that growth acquisition engine is a new territory for distributors.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting point because in 2020, there's room for trade shows and there's room for physical catalogs and there's room, but the world is, a digital world we live in today, and customer acquisition will really be a digital activity, I think, over time.
Excellent. Agreed. One last question, if you will, John. One thing that we often talk about when Mark and I are talking to experts and distributors and manufacturers across the globe is, and you talked about it in your presentation earlier today, making sure you keep things simple. And we asked the question, okay, well, where do you start? And you're mentioning artificial intelligence, you're mentioning these different platforms and marketplaces. And you were very passionate in how you were talking about kind of don't try and boil the ocean and do too much in every part of the business. But what sort of recommendation and advice would you give to our listeners and our audience on where you would recommend they would start? Or actually, I would suspect a lot of the audience, John, are already on some form of path, so where should they refocus their efforts? Because they're probably not being successful as they would like. So where would you refocus your efforts?
I think I'm going to paraphrase what Alex said, which was, have a small team of people with a very small budget and very short amount of time, and challenge them just to sprint or hack at new solutions and do it less as a growth strategy, frankly, and more as a learning initiative, and say, hey, we're going to try something and set up we're going to try it because we want to learn. So join Alibaba.com to sell as a way to learn. And the first 90 days, you're probably not going to sell very much, and you're going to learn how to use the tool, and you're going to figure out, wow, what do I do when someone asks for a quote and they're from Detroit and I'm in Fort Lauderdale, or they're from Turkey and I'm from Fort Lauderdale? How do I handle that? And if I respond in 8 hours, what's my conversion rate like versus in 8 days? I can tell you our data shows if you respond in 8 hours, you're going to sell a whole lot more than if you respond in 8 days. And that's one way to sort of dip your toe in the water, in a low risk, but I think likely lots of learning. Excellent.
Well, John, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
I will make sure I go to Alibaba and source some ties. I don't think I got the memo for today. I'm very embarrassed.
They sent me one that said, wear a tie.
You're going to need to buy a pallet of ties.
Yeah, buy a pallet.
Not one.
That's fine. That's okay.
We can help
And
you
we
with that.
really appreciate your time. And of course, for the listeners and the viewers, we'll share your contact details, and then if people want to come to one of your build-ups, I think that'd be a great way for them to engage with you and also learn from not only you, but your customers, their peers, and how they can really digitally transform. So we really appreciate your time.
Cool.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks again, John.
Thanks.
Much appreciated.
You bet. Thanks.